Hey guys, it's Chris here, and in my last video, I showed you guys how I go about setting up some basic event and goal tracking on the websites that I work on. And since then, I've had a few people ask me about how I go about setting up Google Tag Manager. So in that last video, I showed you how to set up all of the tracking and analytics using Google Tag Manager, and then just using Google Tag Manager to then deploy all this tracking. So how to set up Google Tag Manager is actually pretty easy, but there's a few different ways you can go about doing it. And I'll show you one other way aside from the way that I'm doing it. I'm going to show you how to do it. It's not as good as the method that I'm going to show you, simply because it's not as reliable. You don't have as much control. And so this method is a little bit better, but it can be a little bit intimidating because it's going to require a little bit of code. It's not too complicated, but I'm going to make sure that I share with you guys some sample code that you guys can just download and start using on your next website. So let me jump into my starter WordPress template, my starter WordPress installation, and show you guys how I go about doing this. Okay, so this is the WordPress starter installation that I have here on my local machine. And if we just go into the plugin section and just do a quick search for Google Tag Manager, you'll see that one of the first results here is this Duracell Tomi's Google Tag Manager for WordPress. If we just install this, I'm going to show you, this is actually the way that I used to do the Google Tag Manager installation. And I stopped doing this for a few reasons, and I'll show you why once we activate this plugin. Okay, so if we just go down to the Google Tag Manager for WordPress and click on Settings, we'll go and get into the Settings section here for that plugin. Now, you'll see here that it's asking for a Google Tag Manager ID. And we could put that in here, and actually this WordPress plugin works fairly decent. There's not a whole lot of issues with it, but there are a few things that I don't like about it. So if we look at the options for where this, it says container code placement. So this is where the actual Google Tag Manager code is going to get placed in the site. And you'll see the default option is footer of the page, and it says not recommended by Google. So that actually tends to be what works the best. But that's one of the things that I don't like about it, is that it's just not the recommended implementation. There are other options here like custom, but it requires you to tweak your actual WordPress theme. And tweaking the theme, if you're using like a theme like Astra or GeneratePress or one of these other major WordPress themes, and you create a child theme, then you're going to have to, like override the parent theme's files with another file that you can tweak to have this work properly. It's not a lot of work, but it is more work than what I'm going to show you, and requires less intervention or manipulation of the theme. So if we look at the other option here, it says codeless injection, and it just says it's experimental and that it could break your front end. So that doesn't sit well with me either. So I don't like to use that option. And then obviously the last option is just to not inject it at all. So as you can see, like there's not a whole lot of really good solid options there. If you do use it in the footer, I found that it does work though, but I've had issues where certain other Google tools like the Google Ads, when you connect the Google Ads with Google Analytics, for example, like some things weren't really working all that well, and I'm not sure if I had to do something with this particular setting here. So anyways, the implementation that I'm going to show you is a little bit better because it puts everything in the right place. So that's one option here. This is what I've done in the past. I'm going to show you the better option to this is basically to create your own plugin. Now, that might seem very complicated, but it actually isn't that bad. So you'll see here, it says site plugin for website scripts. I've created this plugin. As you can see, it has my company name here, Propel Digital Media Solutions. And the description is just scripts and other connected tools for this website. So how do you go about doing this, and why did I choose to do it this way? Well, I've researched online a bunch of different options for implementing Google Tag Manager, and this method to me made the most sense. Basically, what this is going to let you do is abstract out the scripts and everything like that so that it's not inside of your functions.php file. And a lot of people don't like messing with the functions.php file. We are going to do a little bit of PHP in this video, but it's not a lot. And I'll explain exactly what the code does so you are more comfortable with it. But, basically when you start adding a lot of stuff to your functions.php, it can get crowded and people don't like that. The other benefit of abstracting the scripts out into a plugin is that with a functions.php, if you add the scripts and stuff there, then in order to deactivate that code from running, you have to go back into the functions.php file and comment out that code or take it out or whatever. With when you create a plugin like this, if you just want to stop running the scripts that are in there, you can just simply deactivate the plugin and everything just stops getting connected, right? Stops working. So it's just a lot easier to deactivate and activate a plugin as opposed to going back in and editing your functions.php file again. Okay, so let's just go and see what it takes to create this plugin. You'll see that it's not too bad. If I go into my folder structure for this site here, you'll see that we have the website scripts plugin here. So it's just a folder in the WP content and plugins folder. So let's just go and create a new one here. We'll call this new site plugin. And what we're going to do is just grab this file here, which is the plugin file. And we just go back into new site plugin. We'll paste it in here. We can leave the file name the same. It actually doesn't matter what any of these folder file names are. It's mainly just for organization. What's going to matter when it comes up in your dashboard here under plugins, it's going to be what is actually inside of this file. So you'll see here, the site plugin information is all at the top here. It's in this comment block here. And basically this plugin name is what's going to appear in your dashboard. And the description that you put here is going to be what's in the description of the plugin here. So this is the name here and the description. And that's basically the plugin name and the description here. And obviously there's the author, which you're going to need to put in there, as well as the author URI. And I don't think you need the author URI, but you should put it in there, as well as the version number. So literally you can just grab this, copy it, and just replace all of this stuff here with your own information, whatever you want it to say. So if we move down here, you'll see we have a couple of functions. I'm just going to make this a little compact here so that you can kind of, so that it doesn't look as intimidating. Basically what we'll see here is that there's two calls to this function called add action, which basically just, it's like setting up a hook or utilizing a hook. So what this is going to do is going to tell WordPress that you want to hook into this action here called WP head, and you want it to execute this function, PDMS Google Tag Manager. That's this function up here. Now, what's in this function block doesn't really matter. We'll look at that in a minute. But basically, what you need to understand at this point in time is you're telling WordPress that you want to attach this function to this hook, and WP head is actually what will add something to the head or within the head of an HTML document or a WordPress document. So if you look at the next section here, I'm actually using Astra as my theme. So Astra has another hook that you can leverage called Astra Body Top, and this actually will inject something into right after the body tag, the opening body tag, and that's actually where Google Tag Manager says is the best place to put another section of code, and I'll show you that in a minute. But basically, what it's going to do is it's going to tell WordPress that for this hook here, we want to execute this block of code, this function here called PDMS GTM before body. And that's basically all it is. It's really just attaching these two, which are Google Tag Manager scripts or blocks of code that we need to add, and it's putting them into the right places using these hooks here. So let's actually go into Google Tag Manager, and I'll show you what we put in these different functions here. So this is Google Tag Manager, and this is the screen that you'll see when you first create a new container. So you'll see it says install Google Tag Manager, and it says paste this code as high in the head of the page as possible. Additionally, paste this code immediately after the opening body tag. So as I just finished showing you, Astra has a very convenient hook that we can use to do exactly this and put this exactly where it needs to go. And WordPress just has a built-in function, or sorry, a built-in hook that lets us place this within the head of the page. So that's exactly what we're going to do essentially. So this code here is actually the exact same for every container that you'll ever create for Google Tag Manager. The only thing that's ever really different is this container ID, or this unique Google Tag Manager ID. And this is going to be specific to the container that you have. So every container is going to have a different ID. So you actually don't even really need to copy all of this. I'll show you what it looks like in the plugin script or the plugin file. And basically, you just need to really copy and paste this one file over. So if we expand this now, you'll see this is in the head here. We've got basically just the same script that Google Tag Manager said that we need to add. And all you need to really do is overwrite this one ID with your container ID. And same thing when we go back to the Tag Manager screen here, you'll see that after the body tag, we need to put this code in there. Again, this is the same idea as up here, and this code is never going to change. So you'll see that it's exactly the same here. It's just on one line as opposed to, broken up into 3 lines or whatever the case might be. But basically, we just need to go in and replace this ID with our container ID. So now when the website loads, this plugin, when it's activated, will attach this function and the code that's in here to this hook, which is right after the body tag. And it'll attach this function to this hook, which is in the head of the document, and it'll add this code in there. And that's pretty much all it is. And once you enable this plugin, your Google Tag Manager will just work. So let's go and check how that works and how that looks, okay? Okay, so we're back on the site here. And if I just go and visit this site, and we just inspect the code right now, if you just do a Control F to perform a find within the document and type in Tag Manager, you'll see that there's nothing in the document for Tag Manager. And when Google Tag Manager is actually activated and installed properly, we'll have a bunch of scripts and stuff that reference Tag Manager. So let's just go back into the site here, activate the site for the site plugin for website scripts. Now, if we look at the source code and we do the same find here, you'll see that we have a bunch of Google Tag Manager assets in here. So you know that Google Tag Manager is installed properly. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's all there really is to it. I actually just used that plugin in my starter WordPress installation, and it just gets carried off into every new site I develop when I just clone that starter template. So it's just a part of every installation going forward, which makes the whole process a lot easier, because then in the future, when I set up a new container for another client, all I have to do is get their container ID, go back into the site plugin, replace the IDs in the code, and that's pretty much it. Save it and everything just works. So it's really easy once you have it set up, and the initial setup is not even that difficult. And it does offer the best implementation and also some extra flexibility you don't get with other options. So I hope you guys learned something. If you did, appreciate a thumbs up, or drop any questions that you have in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer those for you. Until next time, I'll see you guys in the next one.